Welcome to Strangeville. Welcome to the channel. Had a lot of fun yesterday doing the live stream out here at the park. Wonderful Strangeville Park. And I thought I'd go ahead and come out and do another stream. I had some more thoughts beyond what I said yesterday. I wanted to expand and elaborate on a couple of things, and decided to do another live. So jump in and let me know if you can hear me okay. And once I know the audio is working, I'll start digging in. I'm pretty sure, I mean, everything's the same as it was yesterday, so I don't see why the audio wouldn't be working just fine today. I want to talk, let me know if the audio is working. All right. I'm going to be reading all super chats out loud. If you get me to $100 in super chats today, I don't have to go deliver food, and I can work on comic books and YouTube videos all day. Audio's good. Thank you. There's a link in the description of this video to my new book, Count Kefula. If you like outlaw comics and crazy, raunchy underground comics, I think you'll dig my new book. You can read it for only $3 by clicking the link to the Patreon and subscribing. You get access to all my comic books, not just the new book, Count Kefula, aka Dracula in Strangeville, but all of my comics, novels, and feature films. Or you can pre-order the print version in the link in the description. $12 gets you the comic and an 11x17 poster. Pre-order goes through Halloween. So anyway, how we lost comic books to mediocrity. It's kind of, again, this is an expansion and elaboration on yesterday's live stream. If you haven't watched that, you can go check that out. And I kind of break down three sections of how I think comic books are, how comic books got there, and where we can go forward to elevate comics to a higher level in the West. Elaborating on that, all Western industry has shifted to a post-capitalist system. What that means is profits are generated primarily not through the sale and distribution of goods and services, but through shareholder profits, through profits from the stock market, by increasing the value of stocks and profiting therein. Now, how companies used to increase their stock value was by providing excellent goods and services and having the consumer satisfaction index spike. And happy customers means higher stock value. That is no longer the case. We've reached this point in Western culture, this post-capitalist culture, where corporations believe that you are hooked for life. You're hooked on McDonald's, you're hooked on Marvel Comics, you're hooked on Hollywood, you're hooked on tech, you're hooked on social media, and they no longer have to, they have saturated the market as far as users and customers are concerned. So the consumer satisfaction is no longer the primary concern. Gaining new customers is no longer the primary concern. McDonald's has you. McDonald's has everyone they're ever going to get. McDonald's is in every country in every region of the world and every nook and cranny of every city and every town, and they've got you. You're going to eat McDonald's hamburgers, period. And so all companies, especially post-COVID, but I would say the last 15 or so years, maybe 20 years, corporations have been shifting in this direction. And what that means for your hamburger at McDonald's, and I promise this has to do with comics. I promise that this is going to shift and focus exclusively on comics. But to illustrate my point, what this means for McDonald's hamburgers is they can continue to increase the price of the burger, they can continue to decrease the size of the burger, and they can continue to decrease the quality and price of the ingredients they use to make a hamburger. So the shell game that's played with companies in a post-capitalist society is they have, the most important thing to them is their annual shareholder, or their quarterly shareholder meetings, where they present projected profits for the company. And the shell game that's played is, no matter what has to be done, somehow those numbers need to look like quarterly growth and annual growth from quarter over quarter and year over year have to expand. Now, of course, this is impossible and ridiculous that a company is just going to post record profits quarter after quarter after quarter, year after year after year. It's impossible to continue growth exponentially forever. So what the shell game is, the game they play, again, is they can decrease the size of the product, they can increase the price of the product, or they can in the service industry, they can have less technicians. Say you're going to get your oil changed, and I'm sure you've noticed, because this is ubiquitous throughout Western culture. You go to get your oil changed, there are now less technicians, and they are less qualified and less trained than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. Don't let yourself be gaslit. It's not in your mind, this idea that services and goods were much higher quality decades ago than they are now. And that is due to these companies doing anything and everything possible to post higher earnings than the previous quarter or the previous year. And how this relates to comics, of course. Well, let's keep going, because there's another factor here before we dig and drill just into comic books. The other factor is industry trends, and that's really where you lose. Like, not only do you lose all industries, including comic books, to mediocrity just through the sheer need to constantly post record profits quarterly and annually. That's going to create mediocrity by itself, because you're constantly finding a way to give less quality service or produce lesser quality goods, including comic books. But the industry trends are what really crippled the comic book industry and have crippled all of these industries. Now, the current trend, to illustrate, this is a good example because everyone sees it right now. It's just started happening over the last 1 year to 1 year and a half, is every social media company has to have an AI chatbot, and every social media company has to have an AI, a crappy AI image generator. Now, why do we need AI chatbots in our social media. Why? And it's not just social media. I got a plane flying overhead. It sounds like one of those. It looks like the mowers are over at the golf course across the street from the park today, but I guess that's probably every day. They probably have to shave that green every morning for the rich, for the richie golfers over there. Wasting my tax dollars, knocking balls around. Why every website you go to for every company today is going to have an AI chatbot that wants to talk to you? And this is, in previous years, for the last 2 decades, a decade and a half, that's been those, you go to call someone, you go to call your power company, or you go to call, like, my internet has been out for the last 12 hours, and trying to get a human being on the phone is impossible. And if you back when you could get a human being on the phone, all of that customer service was outsourced to India, and you'd be talking to somebody whose English is their second, third, fourth, fifth language, and communication was next to impossible. Well, let's make matters worse and make it a robot now that's literally not even human. And that's where we're at with the AI chatbots. The AI image generators make no sense to me, because they are like the AI image generators in social media, like in Facebook or Twitter. Those are, far inferior to the AI image generators that are standalone software products, right? Like Midjourney and shit like that. Like, if you're going to make, whose sole purpose is to scrape the internet for art and then steal it and then kick out a much more inferior version of it, copyright and IP be damned. So social media companies, they decide, oh my God, we have to get in on that. We have to, it doesn't matter if it works. It doesn't matter if it's good. We got to jump in and make our own crappy version of it. So that's what you get. So that's these, especially, the tech innovations, the fetishization of whatever the new trendy technology is, and you're seeing that with AI. And that's also true for comic books. We're going to see increasingly more comic books made with AI, but we lost comics to mediocrity long before we got to AI. And so the last big trend, and now we're gonna steer this towards comics exclusively. So thank you for allowing me 15 minutes of filibustering. The last big trend that swept across Western culture and tech and Western industry in general was the DEI craze. This idea that there were too many white males running things in all sectors of business, of industry, of tech. Sorry, there's a big gust of wind blowing. I don't know if you guys can still hear me okay, but this DEI trend ripped through Western industries somewhere between 2012 and 2016 is when I pinpoint the major shift to DIY insanity. I was in the Bizarro fiction community at the time, and the Bizarro fiction and small press horror community was centered around Portland, Oregon, which is literally the whitest city in America. And so at the time that I was getting into Bizarro and started writing Bizarro fiction, the Bizarro community was 99% white and sort of barely 1% other. I mean, you could basically say it was 100% white. There were 2 black guys and a Hispanic guy, and white, and the majority of the writers were white men, and the majority of the readers were white women. And somewhere between, and so, when I got into it around 2010, all the writers that I was reading were white dudes, based out of Portland mostly. And somewhere around 2012, 13, 14, really it hit Bizarro hard around 2014. This is everything now, but at the time I had never heard of this. I'd never seen anything like it before. When these small press Bizarro publishers would put out a call for submissions, they would include in their submission call that POC, which is one of the most demeaning fucking terms you could use for anyone that has a different skin color than you. POCs, gays, and women would receive priority when it came to being accepted for submissions, whether that be for anthologies or whether it be for accepting like standalone novels. So white dudes, fuck off, go to the back of the line. Only POCs, women, and gays would get first dibs from these companies. And I was like, at the time, I was like, what the fuck kind of bizarre policy is this? Like, not the merit. Like, let's not publish the best books. Let's publish the blacks. Let's publish the gays. Let's publish the women. It's like, are we looking for the best? Or are we looking for checkboxes that have no value? These are immutable characteristics that can't be changed. So they're not. So fairness is certainly out the fucking window. With the twisted, this all comes out of the Marxist school of thought that's being taught in universities. That's being taught in every university now. But what crept through academia. I mean, honestly, you could go back and talk about the Frankfurt School, and you could talk about the Jews, and you could talk about the slow march of communism and socialism and Marxism through academia. You could blame it on the sexual revolution of the 1960s. You can blame it on a lot. You can trace this shit back to all the way to women's suffrage, and the women's right to vote can be traced back to this, nefarious ideology. But we're sticking modern, and we're trying to get to comic books, right? Didn't I say like 5 minutes ago that I was going to get into comic books? But the same thing, really started to rip through movies, music, video games, and yes, comic books. And here we are at comic books. So as companies like Marvel get bought up by parent companies like Disney, DC is owned by Warner Brothers. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with Image. If you guys know, does Image have a parent company? Is Image still a private company? Is it publicly traded? I don't know. IDW is about to have to close its doors. Even the Ninja Turtles IP isn't going to keep. Apparently, how it looks today, that even the Ninja Turtles IP isn't going to be able to keep IDW's doors open. But all these companies, in the same way that companies today are scrambling to be able to put the term AI somewhere in their company description, so that it doesn't seem like so they don't feel like they're left out technologically, or they're behind everyone else in all industries. That's how DEI ripped through not just comics but everything. Is every company thought, well, shit, if we don't perform these DEI initiatives and publicly and loudly and proudly, then people are going to think that we're socially, we've fallen behind socially, we're not keeping up socially. Now the problem is, of course, with these AI, all the AI crap, nobody actually wants that. The consumer, which again, as I illustrated earlier, The consumer doesn't matter to the companies. Like, the consumer is the final thought after everything else. Well, okay, we do have an end consumer that we have to worry about. But I joke around all the time that these that these corporations don't actually need consumers. They just need a brand to sell to shareholders. So you see often when a company finally gets to a point where it can't project record profits, and it starts to lag and it starts to fall back, if the brand is valuable enough, i.e. Marvel Comics, a bigger corporation will absorb that company. They won't let it go out of business. No companies of any value whose brand recognition has any value go out of business anymore. Those companies are all absorbed into larger parent corporations, and that brand value continues to exist. And that's when you get to comics. That's when you get to the crazy shit that has happened in the comics industry. I do want to talk a little bit about the art and writing. The writing is definitely the product of DEI. So hiring these, I don't want to say, I mean, talentless. Yes, they're all talentless. You're talking about the talentless blacks and women and gays and trans people that have no business. They have no formal like accolades. They're not the best. They're not the best and brightest of their peers. You know what I'm saying? They don't have. And you can't even say they're not award winning, because the award ceremonies have all gone DEI also. The awards like the World Fantasy Award and I'm blanking on some of the other literary awards, the Nebula Award, but then all the way down to even the Bizarro Fiction Awards, the Wonderland Awards. That they made sure that women suddenly out of nowhere, just a coincidence, trans, blacks, and women and gays all started winning the Wonderland Award for Best Bizarro Fiction after a decade solid of white dudes winning, because the majority of the people writing, 99+% of the people writing, were white dudes. So mathematically, yeah, they're going to be the best, the most talented, and the ones that win the awards because of the sheer it's just a numbers game. It's just a math game. So you can't even say that these comics writers that are the DEI hire comics writers, that they're not award winning, because some of them have a lot of awards, but the awards are bullshit. They're not talented. They didn't, a lot of these people, they didn't write in college. They didn't write before they got into comics. They don't have a long track record of writing. They just get plugged in to a comic book series to appease the DEI initiatives. And so you get terrible writing for the comic books. And the art, for the last decade and a half, maybe even 20 years, the art in comic books has been so boring and unoriginal and flat and uninspiring, and will not live generations after it's been after it's been released. Like your John Romita Jr.'s and your Jay Lees and your Todd McFarlane's and your Wally Woods, and your Eisners. We're not going to have that. The modern art style, and again, that's all going to be replaced by AI. Even the writing is going to be replaced by AI. But for how we lost comics to mediocrity was DEI, writing hires, and then also the outsourcing. The way customer service was outsourced to India before being outsourced to AI, the art duties on a lot of these comics, in order to reduce the cost of what a comic book costs to produce, back when that still mattered. I say that doesn't matter anymore. They've been absorbed by, Marvel, for example, while trying to cut costs and trying to project record profits quarter over quarter, year over year. had to start outsourcing to these really mediocre foreign artists and produce some of the worst art we've ever seen in comic books that will pale in comparison, of course, to the AI writing and AI art that's coming now. But that's what got us there, you know. And once you know, Marvel was absorbed by Disney, and you know, DC's been owned by Warner Brothers, maybe, I don't know how long. If you know how long, put it in the comments when DC was acquired by Warner Brothers. I mean, it's as long as I can remember. Warner Brothers produced Batman the Animated Series in the early 90s, so it's maybe in the 80s. DC was acquired by Warner Brothers. I don't know. But they no longer, so, you know, the world we've lived in for the comic book world we've lived in for the last decade and a half, at least, you know, is a world where profits of the, you know, the actual product profits have not mattered in the least. These DEI hires, the projecting the face of comics is black and gay and female, became the brand, and the brand profits not from selling comic books, but from playing the shell game, having, you know, shifty accountants and executive levels people whose job it is to spike the stocks for shareholders and make shareholders money, and that does not require sales of comic books. So you know, there's guys that are far more autistic than me, like your boy Zach Richard Meyer, who will actually, I don't know if he does this anymore. He spent a lot of time like attacking his own fans and getting ratioed on his own YouTube page, bizarrely, for the last forever. That I went and looked at him yesterday, and he's still getting ratioed on his stuff, and he's still attacking his own fan base. But he used to do these really awesome graphs that showed the decline of sales of major Marvel and DC and Image and IDW comic books, and you know, naively trying to illustrate that, look, these, you know, as much as they're trying to hide it, you know, these companies are losing money. They're losing money. The product is a loss leader, guys. The thing that Richard and other guys like him, especially the grifters who just want to cry and complain about, you know, comics suck, they don't get that the comics themselves a long time ago became the loss leader of the brand. Marvel is a brand that can be sold to shareholders. It does not have to make money, and that's true in the same with DC, and companies like, you know, companies like IDW and even Image. Again, I'm not sure if Image already has a parent company or if they're still a standalone company. But sooner or later, you're going to see Marvel, you're going to see Disney acquire IDW and fold it in. Dark Horse Comics, I don't think Dark Horse is owned by a parent company. They lost all their IP, almost all of their valuable IPs back to Disney because they had a lot of Fox, 20th Century Fox stuff. The Aliens, Predator, Terminator, blah, blah, blah. All those IPs got absorbed into Disney when they bought 20th Century Fox. But that will just continue to happen, right? That's it. The grifters on YouTube love to talk about, you know, the wokies have failed. They ain't making no money. They're gonna go out of business. And that's just, you know, they say the same thing about Star Wars. You know, Star Wars Acolyte failed. It didn't make no money. Nobody watched it. Like watching movies and television is the last thing the parent company cares about. They only care that Star Wars is a brand. They only care that these brands project quarterly and annual profits. And this will only become more clear as, you know, we come to the modern moment and everything. Commercials are written by, AI. We eventually those are going to be filmed by AI. Filmed is an antiquated term even. There is no film. They're just going to be generated. Commercials, television, movies, that stuff's all going to be generated by AI, the writing and the images. Back when they were outsourcing, though, like one of the reasons that comics have looked so bad for the last 15, 20 years, when they were outsourcing the art, a lot of that stuff was, and was that Richard Meyer that used to, I think it was your boy Zach that used to point out a lot of the modern comics were, they were just traced over 3D assets, which is a lot, an outsourced, artist can crank out pages. I don't know if at twice the rate, that might be a little exaggerated and over dramatic, but an outsourced artist can trace 3D assets far quicker than a normal artist can do regular layouts and light boxing and whatever a process that a normal comics making process takes far longer, unless you're Jay Lee, to crank out, or Rob Liefeld when he's just doing figures and making the colors do 85% of the work by putting in some kind of like sky background behind it. But so that even outsourcing your talent to India or whatever and having them trace 3D assets, 3D models, and creating just the most dead, uninspired looking art imaginable. The only thing that could be worse than that is the modern era of pushing toward AI to AI generation for all that. Because if you think, if you for a second think that, oh well, these comics companies, they have too much integrity to use AI to do their comics. I mean, they haven't cared forever. They're perfectly fine outsourcing using 3D model assets and all that. So if you think for a second that they're going to have a problem scraping the internet, ripping off IPs, and puking out a shittier looking version of it, you're crazy. I mean, even the crowdfunding companies have instated policies that require a creator to display whether or not they're using AI to create their comic books, so that people who don't want to, it ain't hard to tell, and I don't know if it'll ever get better, and I don't know if it'll ever get, like, there's a fear that the AI art will become indistinguishable from the actual human hand created art, and I'm not sure that that'll ever happen, because there's so many millions of AI images there's so many AI images out into on the internet that when you look up images on like Google, which is a search engine that used to create optimal results as quick as possible, and now just tries to bury facts about the world that might skew you towards a conservative political persuasion. And it's become George Orwell's 1984 memory hole. Like, Google's primary role is to bury inconvenient truths so that you can't search for them or find them. But when you do use it, if you do use Google or any search engine and look up, if you're looking for images or art, you're inundated with AI images, to the point that now we're kind of entering this feedback loop for AI, where when AI goes to scrape the internet and look for the images you want it to rip off, it's just finding AI images that have already been ripped off. And so there's this feedback loop where I'm not sure that we haven't seen the peak of what AI can do artistically as far as images go. Like, the technology will continue to get better to create moving images, but then that will also, because it's just doing the same thing, it's just ripping off video. It's just changing mediums from images to video, but you'll hit that feedback loop eventually where the AI software can't find any images that aren't already, or can't find any video that isn't already ripped off and scraped and shit out as AI. And so you'll hit a peak. I think you'll hit a peak with AI video as well, but I think we might already be there with images. You can certainly tell, like, they all, like the major AI software and even the crappy ones that are integrated into social media like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, they all have the same look. They all have the same generic AI, hyper realistic look to them, and it ain't good. It's not aesthetically pleasing. There's a fakeness to it that lacks the human soul, which human art creates a reaction, which is why we love it, right? Which is why we love comics, which is why we love art. That's why we're here today. It's why I'm saying this and you're listening to this, is because we got hooked on visual images and sequential storytelling art a long time ago. Most of us when we were little kids, and it touches a piece of your soul, and it speaks to you and it sings to your spirit. And AI art just doesn't do that. There's a wall there between an AI image and the human spirit, and I don't think that gap will ever be bridged. I think we're there. We're as far into it as we're going to get with images. But that's what comic books are going to be made of. So there's already, and I think having foreigners trace 3D assets already killed the soul of comic books. Like, I think that was already gone, and that's why modern comics are so bad. Not just that we have these talentless idiots that are checkbox, public-facing checkboxes to help boost the stock value of a brand, writing these things, but also the art has been mediocre for these reasons for a long time. So that's about all I have to say about it, gang. I don't know. I think I got all of it out. That's the stuff I wanted to add that I could have put in yesterday. Let me know what you think in the comments after the video is posted. You can always send a super thanks after the video is posted if you found value in this video and you want to help support the channel, help support me as a creator of comic books by hand with no 3D assets and no AI image generation. I am a human creator, and I make comic books, the human way, with my soul and spirit. If you're not subscribed to the channel, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription is extremely valuable to me. Once we break into that 1,000 subscribers area, I can monetize the channel, put ads on this stuff, and start making money off each of my videos, which will, the more money I make doing videos every day is the fewer hours I have to spend delivering food, and the more content I can create for you guys. So getting to that 1,000 subscribers is real important in that process. And again, you can send a super thanks, or you can join the channel membership for $2.99 a month. That gets you access to all of our future videos that haven't been posted to the public yet, sometimes weeks, sometimes months in advance. I think we got about, 10 or 12 of them up there right now. We got videos that are already projected out into November already, with more and more coming all the time. I just did a video last night of my Robert Crumb video getting banned from YouTube, I'm going to put that. We're going to double up today, I think. I did a Doug TeNapel video this morning. It just came out. If you're watching this live, it just came out about 45 minutes ago. The video then has to process for 12 hours. So those of you that see it later, it'll be, I guess, a video from this morning or yesterday or 10 years from now if you are at the channel watching this video in a decade. And hopefully we'll still be here, and hopefully we'll still be making comics 10 years from now. But you can also join the Patreon for $3 a month. You get access to all my comics, novels, and feature films, including my brand new comic book, Count Kifula, aka Dracula in Strangeville. Dracula breezes into the peaceful town of Strangeville, gathers up his big booty hoes, turns them into his vampire brides, and promptly throws himself a blood bang party. What's a blood bang party, you ask? You'll have to read the comic to find out. It's only $3 on the Patreon. Gets you access to Count Kifula right now. Gets you access to Count Kifula and all my other comics that I've done. It's about, I don't know, 10 comics up there now, 12. Bunch of graphic novels. My graphic novel Space Worm is 164 pages. I've got a sequel to my 2009 feature film Cockhammer, comic book graphic novel called Cockhammer Lives that's 152 pages. Dead Shit, the movie adaptation, is 124 pages, I think. So a lot of the books on there are chunky boys. A lot of pages. There's almost, I think, about 700 pages worth of comics on the Patreon right now. So that $3 value is very, you get a lot of value out of that $3, and it really helps me becoming a patron. Keeps me from having to deliver food every day to pay the bills while I make this content, this comic book YouTube content for you. So that's going to do it. Hope I see you guys at the dollar bin, and remember to keep on digging.